Hi everyone, and welcome to another Star Wars Shatterpoint painting video. Today, we are continuing to work through the Ghost Crew, this time with Chopper aka C110P. Chopper has been Zenithal Prime with black and grey surface primers from Vallejo, but you can easily use rattle cans or whatever primer you have lying around. I'm going to start by base coating all of the desert areas of the base with XV88. You may have chosen a different base that doesn't feature any desert. If so, then ignore this step and just follow the guide for the metal areas of the base instead. Next, apply an Agrax Earthshade wash all over the desert area. While you're waiting for the Agrax Earthshade to dry, base coat the entirety of Chopper's lower body and the antenna on the top of his head with Wraithbone. Before we move on to dry brushing the desert areas, we're going to paint the metal areas of the base, starting with a base coat of Mechanicus Standard Grey. Next, give the base an all-over shade of Nuln Oil. Once the Nuln Oil has fully dried, give the base an all-over dry brush with Dawnstone. Then, dry brush the base again using Administratum Grey. Really try to focus on those sharp edges with this colour. Finally, use some Nuln Oil to add a recessed shade to all of the vents and cracks on the base. We're going to go back to dry brushing our desert now, starting with XV88. Next, dry brush all over the base with some Tau Light Ochre. Finally, a dry brush all over the outer areas of the base with Ungor Flesh. If any of the paint from these few steps gets onto those metal areas, it gives us an effect of the sand blowing across onto the metal platform, which I think is a nice effect and gives the base a little more life. With the base now finished, we can go back to painting Chopper himself. Apply a 1-to-1 coat of Skeleton Horde and Contrast Medium to all of the areas we base coated with Wraithbone. Once the Skeleton Horde is completely dry, apply a base coat of Leadbelcher to all of Chopper's metal areas. To shade the metal areas, I went for Basilicanum Grey, as I wanted something a bit darker than Nuln Oil. Once the shade is dry, take some Ironbreaker and pick out all of the edges to the metal, and apply a layer to the rocket panels as well. For his bright orange areas, I started with some burning ore from the army painter. You can also use this colour for the smaller orange components around his lower body and legs. Using some Waaagh flesh, base coat all of the chopper's green panels. Create a 1-to-1 mix of burning ore and lava orange and layer over all the orange areas we previously painted, but keep the pure burning ore in the recess areas. Finally, take some pure lava orange and add an edge highlight all around the top of Chopper's headpiece. With the orange complete, we can now carefully pick out all of the yellow panels with Daemonic yellow. Apply a base coat of Abaddon black to all of Chopper's lenses and scopes. I made a bit of a mistake here and tried to use some thinned down Abaddon black to do some panel lining. However, it was too overpowering and meant losing the dark orange in the recesses. Instead, I opted to use Nuln Oil. Very carefully add this into the panel lines to add some more contrast and help those individual panels stand out. Use Leadbelcher to paint the outside of the lenses, leaving Abaddon black still showing on the inside. Using some matte black, pick out all of the cables around Chopper's body. If you don't have a matte black, that's absolutely fine, you can use any black you like. Apply a white base coat to all of the rocket blast and smoke areas. You may need to do a couple of coats here as we want a solid white base coat. With the white base coat applied, we are now going to focus on the droid debris on Chopper's base. Start by applying a Soulblight grey wash over all of the droid debris, trying your best to avoid any of the smoke areas. For all of the blue panels on the broken droid, use Ahriman blue. Use some Abaddon black to paint any cables and wires that are coming from the broken droid. Next, use some Leadbelcher to paint any of the metal areas of the broken droid. Finally, darken down all of the broken droid areas with a Nuln Oil wash. Once that Nuln Oil is dry, take some more Ahriman blue and use it as more of a highlight to relayer those blue areas. At this point, it's a good idea to double check that you haven't made any mistakes on those white areas for the smoke, as we're about to paint those next. Once you are happy that all the jet and the smoke areas are completely white, apply a coat of Bad Moon Yellow to the jet coming from Chopper. You want to stop roughly where the jet meets the droid debris. When you do, wash your brush and with the damp brush, carefully blend out the bottom of the Bad Moon Yellow to create a smoother transition. For the rest of the smoke areas around the droid, apply a coat of Iyanden Yellow. This provides us with a darker yellowy orange the further the blast gets away from Chopper. Again, when you reach where the Iyanden Yellow would meet the Bad Moon Yellow, you want to blend it out with the damp brush. To further blend our Bad Moon Yellow and Iyanden Yellow together, and to provide more contrast, apply a shade of Cassandora Yellow to all of the smoke and rocket blast areas. To get the black smoke effect, we're going to use Basilicanum Grey. This will take a couple of coats, so start by applying one single coat to all of the smoke areas between the droid debris up to where the black droid cables are. Once completely dry, apply a second coat to the same areas. This should start to give us a more solid grey-black smoke, while still being able to see a hint of yellowy orange underneath. Finally, we want to thin down the Basilicanum Grey with roughly 2 parts water to 1 part paint, and apply this where the grey and yellow meet. Apply small amounts to the area and let each application dry before applying the next. The thinness of the paint will cause it to naturally run back down from the yellow towards the darker smoke, and the gradual applications will provide us with a nice transition between the two. I managed to get some of the paints for the fire and smoke where I didn't want it, so here I'm just tidying up with some grey Seer. Apply a spot highlight to all of the metal components of the broken droid using Ironbreaker. This stage is completely optional, but if you wanted to, you could use some thinned down Bad Moon Yellow to apply an OSL effect to all of the areas that would catch the light from the rocket blast, such as the metal panels underneath Chopper. Apply a wash of Athonian Camoshade to all of Chopper's green panels. This just adds a little extra contrast to those areas. Finally, paint the rim of the base with the colour of your choosing. And here's the finished model. As always, I really hope you have found this video helpful and that I have given you some ideas for painting your own Chopper. The next Star Wars Shatterpoint guide will be continuing with the Rebels series, so if you want to see that and any other future videos, please like and subscribe to the channel. I really appreciate you taking the time to check out the channel today, and I hope to see you next time.